Hey, District 2 sports fans, it's Gregory here, and I want to tell you about our new sponsorship here. If you're looking to make your business stand out, you've got to check out Chaos Cartel Company. They specialize in custom shirts, hats, tumblers, banners, and so much more. And the best part, there's no minimum order, and their pricing is amazing. I should know because we have a few shirts from them. Whether you're a small business or just looking to get some cool merch, Chaos Cartel Company is here to help. They love working with other businesses to bring your brand to life. If you want to get started, give them a call at 434 489 6123 or shoot them an email at chaoscartel1, and that's the number one, at gmail.com. Chaos Cartel Company, making your business look good, one custom piece at a time.
You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on all your favorite music apps. Like and subscribe.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, we're back with another exciting episode here. We're with our first hockey episode. This is a monumental day for us. So we have Coach Dan Bremner, who just finished his seventh season for the Roanoke Rail Yard Dawgs. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Coach, no, we do appreciate it, and I know you have a lot doing or going on in the off season. But my first question is about kind of like our listeners get to know you a little bit better. I know you're from Sarnia, Ontario. You played in the OJHL, the Ontario Junior Hockey League. Mercyhurst College. I know you played in the SUNYAC and the SPHL, but kind of talk about how you got started into the hockey. And I think you mentioned something you didn't really think about playing professionally at all until like your late teen years. So if you can talk more about that too.
Yeah,
Coach,
I definitely
Coach,
had. Oh,
Coach,
yep,
I'm gonna stop you real quick because I just
sure.
know I know you're getting ready to get into this and you're gonna tell us all the brass tacks. But does everybody in Canada have to watch that movie with was it Rob Lowe or whatever, Youngblood? Y'all have to watch that?
Youngblood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
There's a
that's
couple
that's the
things.
training video to get going.
You got it. There's rules. It's changed a lot. And hockey's become a little softer. But when I was there growing up, when you say ask how I got into it, it's like I always joke. There's rules in Canada. You're born, you get a birth certificate, and a little pair of skates, and then they follow up in years. Make sure you watched um, uh, what is it? What's the name of that movie?
You talking
Youngblood.
about,
Youngblood. Thank you.
yeah,
I
it's
haven't
it,
seen the one.
and
Youngblood
it
I've
teach
seen,
him
I've
how
seen
to
the
fight.
slap shot.
And Slapshot. Yeah, those are the two absolutely necessary ones. But no, yeah, getting started. I got a later start, I guess, but I did. So I started rec hockey very young, probably 3, 4 years old, as almost every Canadian does in the small town like Sarnia. My dad was my coach. I'm one of three brothers. I got an older brother, younger brother. He coached all three of us, and he was very much against whether it was the spending the money or just all the time put into travel. He wanted us to do different sports. So I played everything. I played baseball, soccer, all organized sports, track and field, wrestling, did a little bit of football, very, very little bit of that. But up until I was 13, 14, that's just the way it was. And even though I was excelling a little bit, I enjoyed just kind of playing with my teammates. I played on a select team here and there. And then because my dad was the coach on every team, I played up on my brother's team, 2 years older, all in house league. And then I finally got an opportunity. I think it was 14, 15 that I started with a travel team, a double A team. I went from that, played a year triple A, still locally. And then that summer, my path to junior is unique too, where I just love the game. And I had buddies that were playing at really high levels or junior levels at that point. And one of my buddies I was skating with in the summer, he's like, I'm going to Toronto for the skate, and it's $250 and you get 10 ice times through the weekend. I'm like, sure, that sounds great. And so I went up there not knowing much about it. It was a camp for the team I ended up playing for, Huntsville Muskoka Otters. And I met the coach, and out of that camp, he offered me a spot. And I totally wasn't expecting it. My parents were there with me. And so a couple weeks later, we traveled up, saw the area, and committed to playing there. And I ended up being there for 3 years. It was an awesome experience. Got to do the move away and live with billets for 3 years, and had an awesome billet family I lived with for 3 years there. Um, Yeah, and it was just a really cool, unique experience. And at that point, that was the first time I really thought about it wasn't pro or anything. It was just like I wanted to keep playing. That was always it for me. I wasn't always coming up. Definitely wasn't the best of my age group. There was lots of guys that were highly touted going to the OHL, worried about the draft when I was still just playing house league. And but the one thing I saw, and I talk to kids that I work with now, is like burnout's a real thing. And if anything, passion beats everything. Passion over anything. As long as you stay passionate about it and you continue to learn, you have the opportunity to catch up and excel past anybody. And I think that was kind of me. I just continued to play and just always wanted to be on the ice.
How did you go from the OJHL to Mercyhurst? What was the kind of the process there?
And yeah, so again, a bit of a unique situation where the old OJ and now that I believe it's the OPJHL, it's kind of changed its name and a bunch of different teams all the time. But back then it was a really good tier two junior A level. It was very, very solid. A lot of guys went to the States for college. For my situation, I was in Huntsville, Muskoka, and we were the Otters, and we were affiliated with the Erie Otters, which is where Mercyhurst is, Erie, Pennsylvania. So every year that I was with Huntsville, I went down to Erie's main camp. So I was down in Erie for 2 weeks. I met the coaches of Mercyhurst through that, and over the 3 years, eventually, as I was finishing up junior, they were able to offer me a spot as I was ready to kind of enter college. And again, an awesome experience to go down and play NCAA Division One college. You're playing against some guys that the following year are stepping directly into the NHL, and it was cool to play in some really really old nice arenas. And again, against that kind of caliber, it was the competition and the structure in Division One, how much you have to put into it with like the workouts and the ice, and it is a full-time job, and I ate it up. I loved it.
Coach, did you have a favorite city you played in when you played in the SPHL? I know you played for Knoxville, Columbus, and Peoria. Was there a certain venue you liked playing in, or how'd that go?
As a home player, like of the three, which one I love to play in? I guess it's hard to knock the nostalgia of your first pro. So like when I was in Knoxville, it was super exciting, and Knoxville's a great town too. With University of Tennessee, it kind of booms the industry there, and tons to do. The nightlife's great. It's they got the football games and everything too. It's a fun town. As far as hockey, it was always nice. Peoria was awesome too, just because close to Chicago and people knew the game really well and they're really passionate about it up there. And like I said, Chicago not too far off, so a couple trips with the guys over the years there. But yeah, as far as like that favorite spot, I got to say, that the nostalgia of that first pro experience was in Knoxville.
I gotta ask you a question. So I did a lot of research on you. I was trying to look at different things, and of course, you type in Dan Bremner on the internet on Google, you come up with some crazy websites called hockeyfights.com or something like that. And I was
Boy,
like,
yeah.
I was
I
like,
didn't
what?
even, hey, my Google search, I typed Dan Bremner and it actually included fights, hockey fights. And I didn't even have to type it in. So I was like,
I,
this is
I,
this is my dude right here. I
I,
love
I,
this.
I was like, I didn't really. But your 2015, 2016, were you just playing mad that year? I mean, you got into 12 fights that year, or you just that type of player just gritty, gets into it, and things happen.
Yeah, I think I was always around that like 10 plus fights in a year, and they're not all on hockeyfights.com. That's something back then, it wasn't the film quality wasn't as good, which is nice. You can't see me get beat up all that much. So, um, but I was just, I never consider myself a fighter. There are guys that I want no business with on the ice as far as being a real fighter. I always consider myself a scrappy player. The intensity. I love passionate hockey, and when it boils over. Sometimes it just comes to a fight, and I've always loved those natural intensity fights. In front of the net, a bit of a battle, the goalie gets bumped, defenseman defending his goalie, and it goes. I've never not been as big a fan of like the square up and doing the circle and thing. I think there's a place for fighting, but I think it's out of that passion situation.
And I was
Well,
saying that kind of,
coach, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
I was saying that kind of tongue in cheek. I know that I was watching USA Canada, and you saw that big fight. Is that
Of
something
course.
you kind of start, and you're like, hey, we're here to play. We're not going back down. Is that something where this kind of fighting comes in?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, that one was, if you're going to call it staged, it's not staged, but that one was right at the start of the game and everything. But I'll say that that one I think was boiled out of passion too. You know, it's been a long time since best in that situation. It wasn't best on best in like an Olympic or anything like that situation for years. And Canada's traditionally had the upper hand, and of course with the media these days, everybody heard about it and it was replayed over and over and over again. And I think that was awesome. I think that was USA coming in and saying, you know, we're going to stand our ground here and we're going to make this a bit of a mess. And they ended up winning that game. And that was an awesome, that was such a cool all-star break what they did with that.
Well, Coach, while we're on this, I mean, and if the stats say correctly, 6'1", 185, you're no slouch, by the way. I mean, I think is that close to your
They got me
stats?
at 6'1". I'm
They
not
had
going to
you
argue
listed
that.
6'1",
I'm not, I'm not,
185. So
I'm not going to argue that.
yeah, I was like, man, that's
Uh,
a big boy right there. I mean, come on. But no,
uh,
but what I was going to ask you, I don't mind to watch a fight here or there, but the thing is, I was going to ask you, and Gregory kind of alluded to it just a moment ago. I mean, there really is an art to this, isn't it? I mean, first and foremost, I mean, you got to know when to square up, who you're squaring up against, and then, I mean, literally, if somebody drops their gloves, is that it? Is that when you know you're fighting? Or how do you know? I mean, there's got to be a point.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of that depends on the player and personality and everything. So, when I said that there's guys that I wouldn't want to fight, I mean like technically, there's guys that would just pick me apart, and they're the art of it and how they hold on and tie you up. There's guys that are just so good at it where they'll have you so tied up that you can't throw a punch and you're just going to be eating them. And like when I consider myself on the scrappy side, I was more of that. Like the gloves came off and we were kind of chucking, and it was going to be fast and furious and kind of over in a 30 seconds or less. But the guys that do it at the highest level, yeah, they train all the time on like how they're going to grap on. You see different things that have sparked up here and there every now and then. Somebody trying to jump and throw a Superman punch or something, and yeah, it's gotten kind of wild at times. But the guys that are consistent at it, it's their craft, and they know what they're doing. I I always lean to like my favorites are always guys that are can play the game at a high level too. You look at guys like Tom Wilson, I think is the best example of the newest era, and like dominant player. He can go out there, he does everything, go into the net, he creates space for his teammates, and then he can lay the body. And then when it has to happen too, he can throw them. So guys like that, I have a huge appreciation for.
Hey,
So
Coach, go Caps.
yeah, go Caps. When you go to the ice, that's it, huh? I mean, that's when everything busts up. Is that it?
What do
That's
you mean
the
when you
end.
go to the? Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah. I'm a, you know, actually, just bringing that up, just a trend that I think is going in the wrong direction, and you saw it spark up in youth hockey and stuff, and I wish there'd be more push against it. But as soon as you're down, and as soon as a ref engaged, you should be done. I have it probably comes from my dad. That was my our coach growing up and everything. He's also a police officer, and that respect for the official or a police officer probably comes from this, but. I've never been one that like a linesman has you and there's other stuff going on. To me, there's no excuse to push through a linesman and official. Like once it's separated, once he's got you, you go to the box and you'll get a chance again. If there's something to be done, you're going to be back out there. Whenever there's contact with officials, I'm just there's no place for it.
I don't know. I'm sure you've already seen it, and I know Devin commented on it a while back, but the old 30 for 30, the Colorado/Detroit
Ooh,
old days. I mean, those
yeah,
referees had zero chance of. I mean, they tried, but don't get me wrong, they did everything they could to keep it from going. But I mean, when the goalie comes out of the net and just does a flying somersault after one of the other goalie, I mean, you know it's on. I mean, but that
yeah.
was Lemieux had no chance. I mean, but he was that guy at that point in time, and whether you liked him or not, the dude he was a phenomenal player.
Yeah, no, a very good player, and you'd call him a bit of a rat, if anything. The guys that are going to get under skin, but most teams would want him, most fan bases would
Absolutely.
want him. But when you're playing against them, you hate them, and just a different era too, though. Like Lemieux there, a brutal hit on the year prior. Everybody knew it was coming, and it was just more of a retribution era where you knew that was going to happen, and it was going to be ugly, especially, and he didn't. They were going to get their shot at him, and of course, you all know what it blew up into. So
What is it? Is it McCarty? Is that who really went after him
Yeah,
to
Darren McCarty.
get? Yeah, and so now they're on. I mean, I'm when they did the 30 for 30, they were on their tour together doing,
Yeah, yeah.
speaking. So it was kind of, I mean, Lemieux knew it all along, like you just said. He knew they were going to come back and get him. I mean, but
Hmm.
just one of those things that's in the cards, I guess. But I will tell, and I tell these two boys of mine, um, I will go to my grave saying that hockey players are the most phenomenal athletes. And Gregory talked to you before we went on air that, you got to skate backwards, you get knocked down, you get checked, you're right back up. I mean, you're full skate. I mean, I don't know how you guys do it. Like he said, I can't chew bubble gum and skate at the same time. So, um, it's just phenomenal to me. So I will go to my grave saying that the hockey player is the best athlete.
I'd have to agree with you.
I like that. Coach, so you go from playing at Peoria, and then you mentioned you were an assistant at Ohio. What was kind of led you to being the head coach at Roanoke?
Yeah, another connection where so my last year playing, the vice president of the team in Peoria actually ended up taking the job in Roanoke as president of the organization. So he and I mean I knew him maybe in passing like uh, two or three times in the 3 years that I was there. I knew of him. Um, when I finished my last year, I knew I wanted to stay in the game. Wasn't sure exactly where I was going to go with it, and I was applying around. I got the opportunity to go to Ohio University as a graduate assistant, and then it was I was still obviously following the SPHL. It was fresh for me, so I was kind of following it. And Roanoke had a tough first year, which is pretty typical for an expansion team, but they're going in their second year and heading into December, they were having a really rough start again. So I was kind of following along. And then eventually, they were looking to make a change, and I was reached out to and was asked if I'd be willing to if I'd consider leaving school. And those head coaching opportunities don't come up too often. And yeah, I was more than willing to jump out there and give it a shot.
It didn't take you long to find success there in Roanoke. I mean, you guys have made the playoffs, pretty much almost every year you've been there. But I
Every
know
year.
you guys made the finals in 2022. Was that kind of a surprising run for you guys to get there, or do you kind of feel like you guys had it in you?
Not surprising for us in the group, and I don't think much for the people that were following us closely. We kind of went on streaks towards the end, and I've said all along about the SPHL when I played here and now coaching, like it's about being the best team at the right time. You look at who won this year with Evansville, like they were playing the best hockey at the right time. Their goalie was on fire, and that year, we ended up losing in the finals, but we knew we had a team that could get it done. And when you make the finals and it comes down to these bounces, calls, the little differences, it could have gone the other way, but we were playing the right kind of hockey to get us there, and we were playing that way for a month and a half before playoffs started. So we were confident that we had a good opportunity to make a run.
Did that experience losing in 2022 kind of set you up for that 2023 run, kind of being there and kind of know what you have to do to get over that hump?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. There was a different determination and with me and with the entire group that came back. It was we knew exactly where we needed to get, and we knew the pain was really fresh from the year prior, watching another team hoist the trophy and falling just a little bit short. It hurts that much more. So that was definitely a driving factor.
And I believe that the year after guys make it to the second round again, and then this year you guys make it to the first round, kind of bow out. But the thing I was talking about to you earlier when I saw one of those coaches' corners, I was something you said that you can look at this year, you guys 34 wins, 73 points, third overall in the regular season. But you kind of mentioned look at the regular season, you can kind of it can be dangerous kind of because you can look at it, you can see 34 wins, but there's some things where you can get over the hump or win some games not playing the way you should be playing, and it kind of shows up in the playoffs. So if you can expand more on that.
Yeah, it's something that complacency can get in there, and we had the longest win streak that we've ever had this season. It was 10 games long, and we were finding ways to win, and but there were wins that we still came in the locker room, and afterwards we were still saying it wasn't the right way. We got to enjoy the win, but it glosses over a lot of issues that come up, and it glosses over a lot of like I said, complacencies. And when they're not getting hammered out in season, you end up having a postseason the way that we had it this year, and um, it is a dangerous thing. It's almost good to go through some pain in the regular season so that you can course correct before you get to playoffs and make sure that we're still driving. Again, coming back to like when we won and that year prior, that pain is something that like even that year that we went to the finals and lost, we were battling for playoff spots and we went through a really tough stretch that season in like February, and I think it made our team so much stronger down the stretch because we'd been through it and we'd lost games that like we should have won, but pucks weren't going our way. But guys were resilient and we stayed together and we believed in the process, and that made our group so resilient through playoffs that year.
Coach, I'm kind of skipping around a little bit. And I know might be jumping off key a little bit, but do you feel like hockey is headed to the right place? Is it on an upward climb? And the reason why I kind of ask you this is that, we sit here, we look at, whoever thought that Ovechkin would break, Gretzky's goal record. We're not talking about points, of course, but we're talking about goals. Um, things such as I watched this kind of got on my nerves, and I pull for Colorado and I pull for LA a lot and the Caps, but I was watching a match the other night between the Stars and Colorado, and I don't know if you guys have replay along y'all's lines or not, but you know I just feel like sometimes that replay interferes with a game. And the reason why I say that, Dallas scores a goal and goes up and should have won the game in regulation, whereas replay shows that somebody, I forget who it was, their blade was an eighth of an inch maybe over the blue line and offsides. So, and goal taken away. I just, sometimes I just feel like, is that the purpose of replay? I mean, I know you got a coach's challenge. I know, I get all that, but it just seems
Mhm.
like replay can interfere. I mean, I guess you putting those guys in a position when they're back over there replay or watching a replay. Yeah, of course you got to call it then. I mean, rules are rules, but I mean, is that the nature of the game now?
I mean, I'm sure, it's the same thing that, baseball's fighting a little bit with going more and more to AI and
Yeah.
introducing technology. I think, technology is great, but I'd argue against it too. In a lot of cases, the speed of the game is I think what sells in hockey, and the excitement and the continued action. I'd love to see with the offside rule. I'd love to see a time limit. I hate when I don't know that example exactly. I can't remember it, but I hate when, they get over the blue line and they can have possession for another minute plus
Yeah.
afterwards and then end up scoring, and they can bring it all the way back to that minute and a half prior. I'd love to see some kind of limit. If it's offside, boom, and they score, and it's within 15 seconds, whatever you want to put the limit on, fine. Let's bring it back. It was offside, good. We're just resetting it. But there's been a bunch that are like kind of long-winded like that, and it slows down the game. They add the clock back on. It just I'd like it to have more flow to it if they're going to do it. The other side is the goal cameras, and they almost you got to have that with so much the traffic in front of the net. There's always going to be a place for those where you can slow it down and see if the puck went in. Crucial game-changing moments like that.
What rules have you taken in or have you accepted over the last few years? I mean, hasn't the icing changed and stuff like that? The icing line or
Yeah,
whatever.
icing's changed, and the only real change there is they call it at the dots of the defensive zone that you're skating to, which I actually think is a good idea if they're consistent with it. It avoids that 100-mile-an-hour race where two guys are going all out, and there's just a ton of injury potential there. So I don't mind that one so much. Yeah, I can't really think of any that have come in that have, in my opinion, really hurt the game. It's I don't think there's been too many in the last few years, anything that's really kind of been a throwback.
Coach, do you feel like America is finally kind of like, catching on to the hockey fever in America? I mean, like you watch the Four Nations, like you mentioned, it seemed like everybody was, tweeting about it or watching it. Um, you know, 2010, you guys, get us in the, was it overtime, whatever it was in the Olympics. So, but they're going to be back in the Olympics again, was it a couple years now, letting the NHL players play again. So you feel like America is kind of like growing the game a little bit more, kind of getting into it a little bit more now.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, there's talk of expansion in the NHL too, hopefully happening in the next few years. Obviously, Utah just recently, and so it continues to grow. I think. in small markets, it's kind of cool to be a part of, to see it grow. You see, like, the longer professional hockey can last in a small town like Roanoke, the
Mhm.
bigger the base grows, and then you find more and more fans. But when it comes to like the Four Nations and that highest level, it's awesome to see the passion. I hope it continues to grow. I don't know if USA will ever really catch Canada. It's our game, and we're hanging on to it. So.
I love that. Oh, I know they're not in the same league as you, but I think was it down towards Southwest Virginia? I think it was is it Whitville maybe?
Yeah, they're
They're
about 45 minutes west of us. Yeah.
and I think they're getting a team in a league kind of below the SPHL, but um, that's very interesting to see. I guess I mean we wouldn't expect to see hockey that far down, but does that kind of kind of help grow the game as well, having teams like that in the small markets like you just talked about?
Yeah, so they've had a team for 2 years now. This was their second year just passed, and as far as I know, they've done pretty well. They've grown their attendance, and for a very small market there, they seem to draw a decent crowd. So it continues to grow, and there's a couple of new teams in the ECHL coming this next year and the following. I think that league again, the Federal League's adding a couple teams. So you see markets continuing to pop up. The biggest thing, and I think something that Roanoke does and ownership here does really well, is it's about sustaining and being here long term. They survived through COVID, and they made it very clear that the goal is not to be here next year; it's to be here in five, and
Nice.
they continue to do that. And it's one thing to spark up, and Roanoke's had a history of that. They've had multiple pro teams here over the years. Actually, the ECHL actually started in Roanoke. Everybody met here, and they started the league right here in Roanoke. And there's been a team for 10 years, a team for 5 years. And unfortunately, you see the youth hockey kind of follow that too. It blows up while pros here, and then as it leaves, it kind of dwindles away.
Coach, I'm gonna ask you a quick question about the playoff system. I didn't know if you guys in the is it SPHL, is that how you say, is
Yes,
that it?
sir. Yep.
Sorry.
No, no, you're
But
good.
when you guys are in the playoffs, something that the NHL does, and I know it's, I'm not necessarily saying that they're catching a lot of heat for it. There's a lot of talk about it. And it goes on in baseball now as well as in the NBA. But the NHL does not reseed. I mean, they're trying to make this division matchups, and build rivalries on the
Yeah.
on the initial level. Whereas, I think back, just talking about Colorado and Dallas, that should have been a matchup that was either in the second round or actually in the semifinals or finals of the division. I mean, of the West Coast. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out. I mean, is that something you guys do on y'all's level, or do y'all reseed, or do you just go, hey, this is the way it is, and roll on like they're doing?
We reseed, but I mean, I got our own issues with our playoffs. We do best of three, and it drives me nuts. You play
Oh yeah,
56 games, and you beat the crap out of yourself to have it over in potentially a two
yeah.
game series. Like I hate it. But when it comes to the higher level, I don't understand why they would go to the division setup the way they have. I think you go 1 through 8, you should reseed, and you should get rewarded for a hard, long regular season. They're taking all the value out of the regular season. And so, yeah, I hate that. I mean, everything's nationwide now, anyways. There's so much exposure everywhere. To say that you have to build these rivals, you can have a rival cross country. Like, it doesn't matter. And I just think you should reward these teams that battle for regular season seeding.
I just want to bring back to the team. Yeah, I think you have four players in the top 12. I think Nick Four was leading point scorer in the league. He had, I mean, just phenomenal season. It seemed like when you compare the points to second place. But you can talk about how Nick Four did, and just kind of talk about some of the players that you think will be coming back next year, and how they can improve their play.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys that individually had great years, and that was kind of our thing on exit. I think everybody felt like there was times in the regular season, same with the regular season win streak, and it gave us a bit of a false confidence, and goes to Nick Ford too. One of the things I talk about with my guys, a ton of humble guys. I loved our locker room. I think we got a lot of guys that are willing to look in the mirror and take ownership. And I always try to do the same when I talk to my guys after games. I'm always talking about like how I think I can be better for them too, and I really push that mentality of working ourselves first, and then we work together. But with him, he came in absolutely dominant, and I think it's a long, hard season, and whether it was through getting banged up or the dog days of the season where you're just not as energetic, found himself slipping a little bit. And it's hard to say to a guy, it's hard to have exit meetings with guys that just led the league in points and saying like, you fell short a little bit, and at the same time, it's really awesome to have guys on your team who are play at a high level, who are captains and are still willing to look in the mirror and say, yeah, I think I fell short too, even though I led the league in points. It's crazy to think about. But we had a lot of guys that felt like that. On the other side, we had some guys who had breakout years. Tommy Municello had an awesome year for us, and he was by far the epitome of a pro this year as far as his consistency. Every game he was out there, whether he was getting the points or not, the intensity that he brought to the game was incredible this year. Had another guy with a bounce back year a little bit, Mac Jansen, an assistant captain, again putting up a number of goals, and but he was another one where I think down the stretch and similar to Ford is kind of in that back half kind of lost momentum a little bit, and because we had so much success, it kind of carried us without course correcting some of that slide.
And coach, this question is about it's probably ignorance on my part, but like playing the SPHL, in the off season, if you can talk about what you do, but also what are they doing in the off season? Is there a plan they have to follow? Are they working, other jobs? And when does the season kind of start back up for you guys? I think you start in maybe playing games in October, but when do you actually start, training camp and whatnot?
So this is one that's really interesting, I think, for the general public or people you run into and you say you're a professional hockey player, and that they obviously imagine, oh, that's like all you do, right? You're probably maybe a millionaire, and that's you get your off seasons. For me, for a player, everybody's in their own situation, and I have some buddies that were able to play years and years in the minors, ECHL or the SP, and they had great either family situations or financial situation, and more power to them. That's awesome they had that. For a lot of guys, myself included, I grinded in the off season, and whether it was landscaping or going to construction, finding those summer jobs, and then finding a way to train on top of that. So doing those long 9, 10 hour days out in the heat, and then getting to the gym and getting to the rink and eating right and preparing and going the next day. So the summers were long, and you tried to make some money to help you through the season as well. And there's a lot of guys that still do that, and then you make it to season, and it's kind of like the payoff for all that work in the off season. With guys, I encourage guys if they can try to find jobs where you can be instructors, hockey instructors through the summer, whether it's helping with camps or spring summer teams. For myself now that I do this year round, and that you got some obligations as far as phone calls and recruiting and little things through the summer, coaches conferences and whatnot. But I dive into the youth hockey. So I had a couple weeks off. We got out early, so I had a little bit more time on my hands right as we finished. Unfortunately. And but it gave me a little bit of a breather, and then I was right back into youth hockey. I came from that tonight hopping on with you guys. I was on the ice with a 16U team. We got a tournament this coming weekend in Rochester, New York. So I kind of jumped right back into it with the youth organization here, and then I started a youth hockey training company as well, the Virginia Hockey Lab.
Coach, can you kind of speak to kind of the process it takes to getting guys on the team? Like, how does one go about, you acquiring interest in them, or are they expressing interest in you, and how do they wind up like getting on the team and everything?
Yeah, so at the end of the year, typically at this level, the ECHL level, we're all adding a lot of players that are coming straight out of college. So, and you see it at the NHL level too. The Caps picking up Ryan Leonard for their run. There's a number of guys that step right out of college and go right to the highest level, which is it's incredible. The same thing happens on a lesser level with us. So we picked up 3, 4 players at the end of their seasons, and typically, so hockey in college, there's Division 1 and then there's Division 3. There's a couple of D2 teams. It's a weird conference, but for the most part, it's Division 1, Division 3. This level, typically, those players, once their season wraps up in about February, March maybe, they start, if they're eager to go to pro, they're reaching out to their coaches, or we're reaching out to agents to try to find out which kids are looking to, if they have a good class schedule where maybe most of it's online, they're able to leave school and pursue their first little bit of pro. So we typically look for the higher end D3 guys or sometimes the lower end D1 guys. And then that kind of continues through the summer. I get asked a lot, like, is there a recruiting budget? Do you travel? There's not a lot of travel. There's no budget to it. You typically, I don't go to see guys live. We use a lot of film. There's tons of film now, so you can kind of see guys, but word of mouth and guys I trust. I do a ton through player recruitment. I ask my guys, I was like, hey, if you know guys that are finishing up their college career or whatever, and you think they would fit with what we will try to do here, and you think they're good guys, then make sure you're firing them a line and getting me in contact with them.
All right, Coach. I forewarned you before we started here that, I'm kind of the color guy, kind of the humor guy, I'll ask for forgiveness later. Okay. So that's me.
Yeah.
So, I told you earlier, I'm fascinated with hockey. I mean, I truly am. And, I think about Gretzky's comment, or his quote, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I see these goalies and I used to think a goalie was the size of a jockey. These guys are
Mm,
huge. I mean, these guys are
yeah.
phenomenal now. I mean, some of these guys I see, they can block a net, do whatever, kick your leg, and do whatever. So I don't know if y'all can see this or not, but tonight I went in there on my desk and I knew we had a hockey guy coming on. So I picked this up and I said, man, actually this puck I wound up picking up. I picked it up in Pittsburgh, outside of Pittsburgh at Lemieux's training facility up there. He's got a couple of
Yeah,
rinks. So I don't know if you've ever been up there or not,
I
but
have.
very nice facility, very nice facility. So anyway, I kind of picked one of these up and took off with it one night and thought I'd save it. So I just wanted to tell you, I feel like the most special person that is a part of your team, any NHL team, any hockey team, has got to be the team dentist. It's got to be. How many? I look at this puck and I sit there and I go, this ain't like your little wiffle puck that, there's plastic with air in the middle of it. And plus, they keep it frozen so it moves around so much. I mean, what is the size of this thing? How much does it weigh? And I think about stuff like that just because, I love Alex Ovechkin, and you'll see him after a big, night or whatever and interview him. And when you catch him after the game, he got no front teeth. He's doing an interview, he's missing all his teeth. And I just think it's the coolest thing. So is that, I guess what I'm getting at, is this a result of fighting? Is this a result of eating a puck? What is this all about? Taking a hit? I mean, is it all of the above?
Well, funny to get me with that question. One, first, when you talk about the pucks, I love that because I think when it's a rubber puck, and that's what you hear. Yeah, they use a rubber puck, black rubber puck. And you can think about that in a lot of ways. Rubber can be soft, rubber can be hard. Those are not forgiving. And when people that aren't in the game are like, oh, pick one up for the first time, it's got good weight to it, and that doesn't bend. It's heavy rubber, so yeah, it gets you. But with teeth, yeah, it's kind of the hallmark or the identity of a hockey player if you've lost teeth. And mine first happened when I was 19. The first time was a stick to the face and knocked out the front three or front two plus one on the side, clean out. And yeah, parents were devastated. I loved it. I was like, now I'm a hockey player. When I was playing junior, I was pumped about it. Thought, yeah, now I finally look that way. I got those replaced right when I was finishing up college, starting pro, my first year pro. I got hit with a puck and that knocked the implants out. So then I went without them for a really long time until now I was coaching and I got another set of implants here in Roanoke and playing a men's league game. I got a stick to the face and so this is the second iteration from Roanoke. So it's been a number of times. It can happen in a number of ways. But yeah, I had the flipper for a number of years. I went without anything for a number of years. Yeah, it was a long time. I was looking forward to finally having teeth by the time it was over.
I didn't have a clue that you had lost any of yours, so that wasn't. I was just kind of curious. But this thing just amazes me. I mean, like you said, I mean, that thing stays frozen all the time. I mean, it's weighted. I mean, I can only
Yeah.
imagine somebody eating this. I mean, I see these guys going down on the ice and trying to block a shot with their bodies, and I just like, God, just one of these to the kidneys or to a back. Oh no,
Yeah. Oh
just
yeah. My we had a
cruciate.
We had a player that got one in the face a couple of years ago, and he literally broke his face off his face. His face was broken from orbital bone here all the way through, and it was hanging on by about
Oh,
quarter inch on the other side, without his whole bottom of his face falling off. It was crazy.
And somehow you guys just play right through it. You gotta get a shot of like Novocaine or something like that, and just go back on the ice, start keep playing.
Try to. It's yeah, old school, always going through it. I think there's a little bit more falling down in hockey now, rubbing off there. But yeah, guys, it is our identity again to just continue playing through, and you see it in the playoffs when they finally release, Stanley Cup Finals, and you hear about all the injuries that the players that were on the ice continued to go through. It's insane.
Coach, I hope they're still the owners, but what's your relationship with Mr. Bob McGinn and Jamie and Ty and Brock? Are they coming around the facility at all and kind of have their fingers on the team?
Yeah, the ownership here is amazing. The primary, so when they first bought, all three of the boys were still playing. Jamie and Brock in the NHL, and then Ty was playing in the American League, some in the NHL, and then he finished up over in Europe. Jamie is and was the primary owner when they first bought, and Bob was hands on while they were still playing, and very very involved and down here a ton. And then as Jamie's retired now and he's gotten more and more involved, he makes trips down here 3, 4, 5 times a year. He's an awesome resource for me. Obviously a hockey mind played a ton of games in the NHL, sees the game in a very similar way that I do. So we talk a ton, whether it's talking about players on our team or things we see on the ice, how we can make adjustments. He's always he watches the games. He's texting me in between in the intermissions if he sees anything helpful. He's been a ton of help when it comes to that kind of stuff. And yeah, they're down and they're involved a ton. They have a camp every summer here where the guys the family comes down. I help run a camp. They mingle with all the families down here, and it's in July this year, first week of July they come down and run a camp here. So very very involved. Continue to push growing from the youth up. So yeah, grateful to have them as an ownership group.
Coach, I've never talked to your ownership group whatsoever, so I didn't want to make it sound like it was somebody that I talked to in the upper echelon whatsoever. But I actually talked to somebody from this past weekend and told them we were going to talk to you this week. And one thing that stood in my mind, you kind of alluded to this earlier, and one of the things that really sticks out in their mind, besides you being a good coach, and they're not even hockey fans, but they do attend some games. But the other thing that really stood out in their mind is that you're giving to the community and being around the community in your off time and spending time with those folks is just phenomenal, and it goes a long way with these Southern people. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, coming back to ownership, you know, I said that they made that commitment to be here long term, and I was on contract as we were going into that COVID, and I'm grateful that they looked after me and said, no, we're going to keep you here, and so I had a year where I had some duties within the team in the front office to try to help out around there, but I had a year with no real obligation with the big dogs, and so I dove in with the youth hockey that season. I coached every team from 8U all the way up to 18U. Went on trips with them, and I was grateful that the ownership kept me on, and it gave me the opportunity to really dive in and help out with that. And we've seen it grow a ton, and I think one hand helps the other. The more that youth hockey grows, the more our attendance continues to grow as well. And it's been awesome to be a part of. I'm proud of what we've done with the big dogs on the ice as far as winning a championship, and the goal is to get back there as soon as possible. And I'm really proud of what we've done with the youth hockey program here.
Coach, last one for me before we get to the rapid fire. This is a loaded question. I'm sure if I had to say a lot about this, but if the Roanoke Rail Yard Dawgs are to get back to the President's Cup next year, what do they have to do in the offseason and regular season for next year?
So I think it's holding up that accountability all season long. Regardless of the results, regardless of a win streak or where we are in our wins and losses, it's looking at it a little bit more in depth and making sure that we are holding guys accountable, holding ourselves accountable. I still think we had a team that could have got by in that first round, and I think we got away from You see it in the playoffs all the time. The outside shooter rarely is where the goal comes from. It becomes a very greasy, hard game, and you got to go to the net. And I think we had opportunities to really take that puck there, and it wasn't our first instinct. We were having success down the stretch in the regular season on those outside shots, and we didn't have enough of that build, that identity, that gritty hockey, go to the net identity. And that's going to be a focus on my part as far as the GM side of things, what players we're bringing in is I'm going to make sure that we have guys that their first instinct is go to the net. Skill's great and it carries you a certain distance, but when you hit a hot goalie or it's just not coming off your stick the right way, you gotta be able to adjust and you gotta be able to go to the net and find a way to get a couple greasy ones and win a game that way as well.
Coach, I have one last question for you as well. Um, this isn't going to cost anybody in your organization one dime, so I just want to preface this question first and foremost. So, uh, we're always looking for play-by-play commentary, and we're very free. And do the Rail Dogs have a play-by-play group? I mean, we're willing to take this show on the road.
Yeah, most teams in our league do. Our guy Mitch Stewart, he's been here 2 years now. He's the one who's always late for when he's supposed to meet me, like this morning. But I will say he is very good with the color commentating. Our fans love him, and if you go back to our championship winning goal in overtime, he was lights out on that. It was a pretty incredible clip. So if you look back on that, you can hear him. He's saying what we're all feeling in that moment. It was great.
Tell them just give us a shot one day. Just
Yeah.
we'll add a little
Well,
color to the
I'm sure
commentary.
I'm sure he'll love to have a couple guests,
There you go.
spice it up a bit.
Yes, sir.
Coach, I don't want to keep harping on the whole fighting thing, but I had to look up your history of fights after Gregory said hockeyfights.com. I gotta ask, was there any and you might not even remember this guy, but Alex Crom from the Columbus Cottonmouth, y'all fought on April 8th, 2016, and then on the next night, April 9th, 2016. Any what is the backstory behind that?
Alex Crom.
Alex Crom.
Um, Honestly, I never really focused on our opponents too much, and with me, again, usually it came out of a place of passion. That wasn't something I'm sure was set up. That was probably me either running around like a bit of an idiot or causing a bit of a scrap by the net, and and the fists end up flying. But yeah, that definitely wasn't something planned. It's not something that I don't specifically remember those two fights.
It sounded like a title fight, and then the next night was a title rematch.
The rematch, yeah. Hopefully it was blurry enough to not see me get beat up. That's all I'm saying.
And Coach, I'll admit to everybody right now, I was late to the podcast tonight. Okay, and I apologize for that. But
Taking a look in the mirror. That's good.
what is the penalty for a guy on your team, a Roanoke Rail Yard dog who shows up late to practice or to a team meal? What's going on there?
Typically, I like my captains to have control of the room, our vets to have control of the room, and those are things I put on them. And the way most guys at this level feel it is their wallets because they don't get paid a ton. So it's typically fines. If it's something that happens consistently enough that I would have to step in, it's probably a guy that we don't really want there. The discipline wouldn't be there to be there. And when it happens here and there, you get dinged up on a fine, you laugh and you move on. You make sure you make the adjustment, but. I think part of that structure and part of that discipline is so important, and it's what I talk to the youth kids about so much. It's not, and the parents, it's not about making the jump to the NHL or pushing your kid there. To me, it's what you're gonna the lifelong goals or the lifelong lessons and life skills that you're gonna get showing up on time, being respectful to bosses, and that drive to compete and give your everything in it. So they get fined, and hopefully they have some fun with that fine money at the end of the year.
So what he just said, Dev, was me and Gregory will be sending you a citation after
Yeah,
the podcast.
I
Okay.
was going to ask,
Write
am
it
I
up.
making the check payable to you or to the Rail Yard Dogs? But
He's our new GM too for the District 2 Sports Podcast. We need some discipline here for you guys. Devin,
Perfect.
you got these rapid fire?
let's get into it here. All right, Coach, putting you on the spot a little bit here. All right.
Sure.
First thing that comes to mind here, I got 13, and we'll see if these guys have anything else afterwards. But 13 rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to your head, all right? Whenever you're ready here. All
Ready to
right.
go.
Score a goal or big check?
Score a goal. I check too much.
Play in a packed stadium or on a frozen pond?
Uh, Pack Stadium
MVP or championship?
championship.
Visor or no visor?
No visor.
Be known for speed or physicality?
Physicality.
Lose a close 7 game series or get swept?
Lose a close game, 7 game series battle.
Favorite NHL team?
Don't have one. Give me exciting hockey.
Slap shot or wrist shot?
Slap shot.
Ovechkin or Gretzky?
Ovechkin.
Win an OT or win in a shootout?
Win an OT.
Best arena you played in?
Oh, Maine.
Go-to pregame music?
Not a music guy.
Best hockey movie?
Slap shot.
There it is. All right. Heard from Coach. And Coach, I got a question too. Where can I get one of those sweet royal blue jerseys from?
I'm sure. I would imagine we have it on our online store. I can send you guys a link to where that is for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those blue ones are sharp, aren't they?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, saw y'all got some updated gear for the last season, I believe. But you heard
Yeah,
it here
that's
from the
cool.
man himself, Dan Bremner. Coach, tell us what's going on now that you're in the off season. What you got coming up this summer?
Yeah, like I said, I'm dove back in with the youth hockey. So the last this week, next week, we practicing, getting ready, and this weekend I head up to Rochester, New York, with the 16 U's, and then next weekend our 12 U, 14 U teams will go up to Pittsburgh for a tournament. Then a little bit of downtime through the end of May and June. And then our youth hockey picks up again through July. The McGinn's coming down for a camp, and we have one more tournament with the youth hockey up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So that'll kind of wrap up my hockey for the summer, and then try to get a little downtime too. One of the things I say all the time to my guys when they're leaving too, and especially when we lost like we did, they're like, I got to we're training, I'm getting at it, I get ready for next year. I was like, give yourself a little break too. Take a little time away from the ice. You want to be hungry to come back to the ice. So I'll make sure I get some time away from the ice with my wife and our dogs a little bit, maybe a little hiking around here. So looking
Nice.
forward to that downtime too.
Coach, I know you're talking about downtime, but is there a way for anybody to keep up with what Dan Bremner's doing for the summer? Any kind of social media, Twitter, anything like that?
Oh, I'm not a big social media guy. No, not a ton, really. I'm sure our local youth hockey organization, the VYHA, will post whenever our youth kids win some tournaments here coming up. So maybe keep an eye out for that.
Perfect.
Coach, you have a front runner for the NHL playoffs. Who would be your winner today?
Oh man, tough to bet against Florida. I love the way they're playing right now. I know they just went down 1-0, but man, they're tough. They got talent. They're heavy. They play hard. Yeah, I like them a ton.
I was gonna ask you, Sarnia, is it Senators or is it the Maple Leafs?
Everybody's between the Red Wings and Maple Leafs there. My whole
Really?
family's
Wow.
diehard. Yeah, we're only an hour 20 from Detroit.
No
Wow.
kidding.
Um, so yeah, my family's all diehard Leafs fans. So unfortunately, I've enjoyed watching the pain that they've gone through the last few years.
Well, Coach, we do appreciate your time. I think we held you over a little bit, but we do appreciate it, and
No
we look
worries.
forward to watching the Rail Yard Dogs next year. But Coach Dan Bribner of the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs, Coach, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Coach. Yes, sir.